Hey guys, me again. I wanted to do a video talking about one of the most common questions I get asked by people, like just generally in my life, whether it's like people trying to get into like the media industry or people that are just interested in what I do for work. And that question essentially is like, how did you get into what you do today? How did I get into this career path? How did I get into doing what I do? And like, what was the snowball effect of everything? And particularly, I guess, in relation to like when I worked on Hamish and Andy, like I think people are like, how did you get that job on Hamish and Andy? And I think a lot of people think there's like some skill or some level of like supreme knowledge that came with it. But to be honest, I can put most of it down to luck and being in the right place at the right time. So I just thought I'll talk about what I did, like everything from finishing high school to now, and like how I went about things, what I did, what I wish I did, and just stuff like that. So the main thing for me was like I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I finished school. So I graduated, I got a pretty good ATAR, and so I just thought I should go to Melbourne Uni because it's like, I guess, a really prestigious university in Melbourne. I didn't really have any idea of what I wanted to do, so I just did an arts degree, and I dropped out of that after 1 year. I was really depressed. I didn't enjoy it at all. I honestly just hated going to uni. I didn't want to do it. And to be honest, even now, I am really skeptical about the value of a degree and the value of university now, particularly for like creative jobs. But I ended up pivoting eventually and going and studying another 3 years at RMIT in Melbourne, which was a media degree. It was a Bachelor of Communications Media. So I studied that, and I really enjoyed that. Compared to Melbourne, it was a lot more vocational. It was a lot more hands-on. It was learning how to work in the industry, basically. And there was a small cohort of people there as opposed to Melbourne Uni, which had like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people. I reckon we had under 100 students in our course. And because of that, you made friends easily and you connected with other people who were like you. From there, and this was probably the start of me of me being here today, is I ended up going and doing SYN, which is the Student Youth Network, which is like, was essentially a radio station, a community radio station in Melbourne, where like you pay a membership fee and you can have your own show on community radio, broadcasting on the FM band. And I did that, and I did a few shows, and then in 2016 I did like my own show with a friend, and it was honestly, and this is like, they'll let you do anything creatively at SYN, because we just did a show, a radio show every Monday where we talked about a different episode of The Simpsons. And like, it was awesome. We were just like doing a radio show about The Simpsons, which was cool, and we did it, and like, it was really fun. I finished uni that year, I graduated, and to be honest, I had no job lined up. I had no idea where I was going to go next. I really didn't have a plan for what I was going to do, and I felt pretty anxious about that. Thankfully, and this is where I say a lot of it's just luck and networking and connection, one of my friends from uni, their mum was Dee Dee Dunleavy, who's a really well-known radio broadcaster from Melbourne, has like many, many years of radio experience under her belt, and was able to connect with her. And she brought me into her show essentially as an intern, and I was able to like learn the basics of radio broadcasting and producing a show, getting callers to air, running the panel, pre-production on it, like all of this stuff. And that's where like every week I would go in and I'd just be really eager to learn. Free, didn't get paid, but like I really wanted it. And Dee Dee was a massive help. So that kind of led to me eventually just applying for jobs at radio stations, just cold emailing radio stations, being like, this is me, this is what I've been doing. I'm really keen for my first shot in the industry. And thankfully, Triple M in Melbourne got back to me. And this is why I say it's luck, because like they just happened to have an opening at the time. And if they didn't have that opening, like I probably would have been knocked back. None of this would have been happening. It was just like the timing of me being there really, really helped. And so I took a job at Triple M. working overnights on their night show every single day of the week from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., which was really tough, and I didn't enjoy it very much, but I just thought this is a great way to get my foot in. And then Triple M is owned by the same company as Fox FM here in Melbourne, so you kind of like end up working between both, and I was paneling with Fox and Triple M and just working alongside both brands till the end of 2017 when Hamish and Andy were finishing on radio that year. And so they were doing a private jet tour around Australia, and their regular panel op, Jack Post, was with them, so they needed a panel operator in studio for their last week to panel the last week of their show. And because I was pretty much the only one there at the time who was available to do it, I ended up getting that gig, and I paneled the last week on air with Hamish and Andy and did some training with Jack and everything. And from there, I basically, because I was there, like I was asked if I wanted to do like a junior producer role on the podcast when it came back the next year. So that's how I got onto the Hamish and Andy podcast. At the same time, Sam, the executive producer of Hamish and Andy, was also working with Will Anderson on his podcast, Willosophy, and they were looking for a producer. And because I'd worked with Sam through Hamish and Andy, he said, "Are you interested in doing this?" And so that's how I picked up Willosophy. So basically, I think I was one of the first like full-time podcast producers in Australia, or at least Melbourne. And I was just working across those two shows, and that just like over time, it just started snowballing and expanding, and I took on more things and different things, and things came and went. But at the same time, I started doing my own creative stuff. So I started doing my own podcast every week, and I would just talk about stuff that I wanted to talk about. And I think the reason I wanted to do that was because I wanted to get better at speaking on a mic and speaking to camera and being able to like hold my own. Like I would do a solo podcast every week where I would just talk for like 45 minutes. So I feel like doing that for 6 years really helped me to kind of, I don't know, like hone this skill and being able to like think off the top of my head and just talk for 45 minutes and not really have to think very hard or prepare. Like I'm not preparing for this at all. It's just like flowing out of my head, which I don't know, I think is because I've done it so many times in the past. So essentially, like a lot of the things with me were just random chances, but I suppose at the same time, I put myself in a situation or a scenario where the chances could arise for me. Like I really tried to be around, and to be honest, I look back on myself 10 years ago and I'm like, I wasn't that good. I was very anxious. I was not confident at all. I just had this blind self-belief, you know, I just went in there and I was just like, I want to do it. I want to try it. And even though like only recently have I been reassessing like this fear of failure that I think is innate within all of us, which I want to explore more. I think even then, like I had just sort of decided that like, even if I do fail, I will have tried. I would rather try and fail than not try at all. And that actually kind of reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Jim Carrey, who was speaking at like a graduation ceremony at an American college, and he says that his father could have been an amazing comedian, but decided to take the conservative choice and go and be an accountant. And then he was fired from his accountancy job, or he was made redundant, and then the family had no income. And so Jim Carrey said, like, the number one lesson I learned from my father was you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well fail at what you do want, which I think is like really profound. Like, why not try, especially in your kind of early career, and especially like when you've just finished uni and you're just getting into it and you have no dependents and you just have like the luxury of time, I guess, in that sense. Why not just try and do what you want? Like now I'm like working on my own media business. I'm doing creative work. I'm doing like corporate work. I'm making my own content. I'm doing all of this stuff. And I think it was because I dared to dream 10 years ago. Like I dared to like give it a shot, even though I was really scared. I just went and did it anyway. And I feel really lucky and grateful that I am where I am, but also, but I do, like, I put a lot of it down to luck. But at the same time, like, I didn't have to go and work on DD's radio show every week. Like, I didn't have to do that. I just knew that was the right thing to do for me to skill up and learn more and become better at what I wanted to do. So that's pretty much the story of how I got here and why I'm doing what I'm doing now, and my kind of trajectory from high school to university to like early work to now, like the next phase of what my career is. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is, like, sometimes it's easy to think that everyone knows exactly what they're doing, but like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making it all up as I go, and I'm doing my best, and that's okay. So like, don't think that everyone else has it worked out. I definitely don't. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm happy to answer any questions if people want to ask them. And yeah, I'll chat to you guys soon. See you later.